Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. I am Nick Murawski. This is episode 238. We are a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. Been doing this now. This is our fifth season, believe it or not. And what a season it has been. We're going to get to the week that was. We got our Pedro Grifol quote, hopefully sponsored by Super Rope in the near future. Thank you so much for joining us live on our YouTube channel. We try to do this Sunday nights. Subscribe, pass it along to other Sox fans in your life. You can find the audio everywhere. Chopping things up with me once again, my very good friend, my dear friend, lifelong Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Buddy, it's good to talk to you. You know what this season makes me think of? Do you remember Billy Madison movie, Adam Sandler's movie, long ago?
Sure.
And they go on the field trip, and they're at some like farm petting zoo type of thing. What does a horseshoe do? And the woman's just going on in front of this group of kids, and then she just goes, "Is anybody listening? Does anybody care?"
Sure.
So it's when she says that, that's what I feel about this season now. It's like, does anybody care? Is anybody listening? Is anybody consuming? But I know that my good friend Nick Murawski is watching every inning for us all, and it's the labor that you have that you've taken on for everybody. So thank you for that. Thank you for your
we're going to get into why do we still watch after we get through the state of the Sox here, and it is brutal. Sox, as we record, 57-93, 36 games under, if my math is correct. There, 12 more games to play. Sox lost a series to the Kansas City Royals since the last we spoke. They lost the season series to those same Royals. Twins series, that was a bust. Lost that series. Outscored something like 30-10 this past weekend. And Sox are 4-12 during the month of September and have lost every single series. So, I threw this out there, a couple hours ago on social media because it was rattling around in my mind. And I think I do, I think about things a little too much. I've got a Larry David complex. I think we all have a little bit of that at times of, thinking about, the thing and just really, dissecting it a little too much. And I said, like, I'm still watching this team. It's almost like, now it's 6:40, but in the evening, or if it's a day game, it's just, when it's going to be on, you just turn it on. And it's kind of mindless a lot now, throughout this month. It's just there. The game's there and you're watching, but you're kind of paying attention to other things and you're not maybe as invested. I was hoping that I'd be seeing some growth from different players. One's not even around anymore, back down to AAA, which we'll get to in this episode. Another is having meltdown after meltdown as he was moved to the bullpen. But I don't know, Pat. I know you might not be as invested as I am right now, and I think I had some great responses on social media, which I related to. It's like, this is my team. I don't have a backup baseball team. I'm not nearly as big as a Bears fan as you or other Bears fans that are, probably listening and throughout the, the city. So I am baseball all the way. And it's just, I don't know anything else, and I get it. They're horrible. And I'm not going to pass any judgment on anybody that's either given up on them or they're still with it, because I'm still with it. I don't know if I could really put I don't think I can articulate it very well of why.
Well, thank you for, again, doing what you do.
Sure.
You keep on keeping on. I'm still checking in. I'm checking the box scores just about after every game to see how they did, what was done, if there was any individual performances worth note. I checked in today after I saw they were shut out, just to make sure they didn't get no hit. I just want to make sure that there wasn't a no hitter thrown. I was really hoping that they'd get rained out. Maybe that would have been something that would have saved our Sunday. But I don't have any issue with anybody that wants to check in and continue to watch this team. It's just so disheartening and disgusting. I can't even fathom it anymore. I can't listen. I can't watch, only for the fact of, man, I almost feel bad for Benetti and Stone and Len and DJ. It's like, boy, you guys are almost at the finish line. I feel for you. You're almost there, boys. Keep on keeping on. But I mean, the audience has got to be down. I mean, I guess there were some good bobbleheads recently, right? Given away. It was halfway to St. Patrick's Day. What was it, yesterday or a couple days ago? So that's maybe a reason why fans want to come out. There's 6 more home games remaining on the schedule before this one's put in the books. But I mean, I can't bring myself to continue to watch this team play after I've seen them play the way they've played all year, in terms of they've lost. They haven't played with any kind of intensity or edge or care since the second week of April. After the 10-game losing streak, it's been the same thing for 6 months, Nick. 6 months. So if you're a player and you're like, where's the support, dude? Where you been? That's all I've got to say. Is maybe I have mentally checked out on the season because I'm just so disgusted by what I've seen. It's hard to turn on and watch anymore.
Yeah, it's and we discussed last episode. It's not like there's been some major injuries. Obviously, the trade deadline depleted a lot of our arms, and you look over and what's happening with Jake Berger in Miami, and sure, we could have used that offense, and that's a whole nother thing that we've kind of bounced in and out of and discussing that I'm sure we'll probably revisit in the offseason. But the core in general, the offensive core that we thought was going to lead the charge, I mean, they've been on the field for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Typical injuries for Aloy here and there, and Anderson's missed some time, and Mancada has probably missed the most, I would assume, of the core. But and that's what just it continues to really just compound all the other issues, and then what I follow most during the week is like, well, okay, well, what are they saying? What should I be following? What's the thread here? What's the trail of breadcrumbs that's going to take us not only at the end of the season, but into the offseason? What's the game plan here, Getz and Grifol? And wow, did we get some stuff from Grifol and even Getz this past week? That's just what's happening here. Is this really the direction? And how do you possibly think there's going to be a rebound in 2024?
I mean, if I was Pedro at this point, I would just record what I said the last night and put one of the cardboard cutouts like you had in 2020 that you put in your seat, that you bought. I would just put it there, and I'd hit play from last night's press conference, and I'd say, this is the exact same thing I'm going to say anyway. So just take this and go with it. It's like the flush hits, all this, we're going to be competitive next year, which I saw that little blurb that he's very confident that this team will be competitive next year. And I guess my follow-up is, have you talked to Chris Getz about the 5 pitchers that you now need to fill out a pitching staff? Because right now I don't see one starting pitcher on this current staff, not one, that you should be able to rely on next year.
Yeah, he's kind of walked back some of that recently. Pedro Grifol is talking about the things that he's not going to be talking any more about, but he's commenting on. He's like having his own little dialogue with himself back and forth, and so I think somebody probably spoke to him and said, "Look, can you not be talking about how we're going to be competitive in 2024? Let's pump the brakes on that. Here's kind of the narrative that I want you to work on." But boy, he loves, though, just nuzzling up to his superiors. And I mean, it's the good that he keeps having to push on Getz and the job he's going to do and this and that. Like, cool it, Grifol. You got the job. They've already given you, your the confidence for 2024, which is still, man, is that just nuts? That is absolutely crazy that we're just going to let this guy coast into the offseason secure and into 2024, putting things together without even an evaluation. At least that's what we're being told right now. That's what's really irritating. But cool it, Grifol. I mean, you got it. You've won them over clearly. You just relax.
Yeah, there won't be any changes with that. It's just this off season. I'm actually, maybe that's why I've so tuned out to this regular season, because that's not really the story anymore. The story is, get me to the off season, and I know there's going to be several rumors about players that might be interested, or they might have a seat at the table with this person or that person. And again, it's not a very deep free agency class. I get that, but I'm more interested to see how they're going to attack this, from a philosophy standpoint, and see if there will be any kind of marketed change in the way they go about things. And maybe there's a difference in the way they go and talk to guys now. Kenny Williams was here for a long time. Rick Hahn was here for a long time. They never were able to land any kind of big fish, or any kind of fish really, when it came to free agents. Does that change with Chris Getz? Does he have a different way of communicating with people because, he was a player not so long ago? Maybe he has the charm that people are looking for. I don't know, but I'm more interested in seeing that, and seeing they're going to cobble a season together next year, seeing as though I think they want to be competitive, Nick. I don't think they really want to go into some type of full-on rebuild situation. I just don't. But that's why I think I'm just ready for this season to be done and see what the movement is going forward, right? Because there's only so much. How much more can you say at this point? You can't make moves right now. You're not changing too many things other than sending guys down like we've seen, or moving guys to the bullpen. What can you really do to affect any kind of change right now? Nothing. You just exist for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the action, some of the actual play, and I'll focus on Michael Kopech first, who of course lost his starter job. We talked about that. It's been well documented. Going to be shifted to the bullpen, but Pedro Grifol wants him to have that edge, that mentality throughout the offseason of, you're going to be looked at as a starter in Glendale at Camelback Ranch. And Grifol kind of spoke out of both sides of his mouth, as he tends to do. He's got great closer stuff. He's got great stuff out of the bullpen, but I also really value his arm coming as a starter, and his makeup and all that other kind of stuff. Well, we saw Kopech, I believe it was on Friday. He came in, and that was an absolute just dumpster fire. And video caught him, having a reaction that, hey, I probably have the same reaction too. And I don't think it was I'm out of the game now. It was a, why can't I do what I want to do type of reaction. And if you've ever done anything, whether you're in a bowling league, or you're playing sand volleyball, or an intramural sport, or you're doing anything, or you're on the golf course, boy, I know this, and you know what you need to do.
I've seen that. I've actually seen that from you on the golf course. And
you've seen that from me
a little bit, maybe not that.
I know the shot I need to make. I've got the club. I've done this distance before, and you just absolutely, you can't do it. And you just, you're speechless, you're frustrated, the inconsistency, and you're seeing that ramped up, from Kopech. So after Friday's game, Kopech has yet to record a scoreless inning out of the bullpen in 3 tries, and was seen, of course, slamming his glove in the dugout after 4 runs in the top of the 9th. And I don't think he even issued a walk. It was all just, it was all just generated offense by the Minnesota Twins. So, that's not good. I don't think he should ever have been put in this position. I thought it was bizarre. Yeah. Okay. Maybe he's got some makeup of a bullpen guy. He doesn't have the durability, perhaps, of a starter. Maybe that electric velocity will return out of the bullpen in short spurts when he knows he doesn't have to go 4, 5, 6 innings. I think it's something else. How can you trust a guy out of the bullpen that seems to just have no control over what's going on? And they cannot, hone their craft in critical situations out of the bullpen. Yeah. When you need somebody to be lights out, I need you to bridge to maybe my 8th or 9th inning guy. How can you say that that's what we're going to have this guy all of a sudden start working on? It's a whole different mentality.
Yeah.
going from starter to now out of the bullpen. I didn't get that move. I thought that you're going to set him up for more confusion, and boy, we're seeing it right now.
Yeah. And, if you remember back to how the season started for him, going back, maybe was it his first start at home versus the Giants when he was tipping pitches seemingly, and it was talked about afterwards, and the Giants were just hitting bombs out of guaranteed rate field after bomb. And it was like, whoa, this is pretty alarming here to see this right out of the gate from Kopech. And I just wonder if he's just kind of throwing his arms up at the season. It's just like, the hell with it. I'm just gonna go out there and if I'm tipping pitches, it's like almost like I don't care type of mentality, right? And I don't care if people know what's coming. If they can hit it, they can hit it. And obviously they are, because like you said, he's not walking people. It's just he's getting hit around. I'm worried about his neck just watching the balls fly past him all the time. It's like,
or just an aneurysm. Just, I mean, seriously, like having just a breakdown. I think there's something serious going on, and I know he's invested a lot of time in the mental and like the spiritual stuff, and like just whatever that is for him, whatever that means, trying to like center himself and having a balance of his baseball life, his personal life, and he's been in the spotlight over the years, and just trying to get away and just trying to be able to find the calm. And that seems, and then when I hear about that, and I'm like, great, good for you. You do you, man. However you need to achieve that, being centered and everything. But when you're working so hard at that, and that seems to be something that you're constantly trying to, till and turn over and over, you're working that hard for that. And then it's like, well, now I don't know what's going on with my profession, my baseball world. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of loose ends, and that's what concerns me about Kopech moving forward. So when you zero in on that, you're like, well, wait, this is supposed to be a guy we were going to rely on in the rotation. So then I go back to, the competitive in 2024. I'm like, I'm sure you want that. Of course, every organization wants it, but how are you going to be able to turn this around that quickly?
And I'm just curious if, just thinking about maybe the decision to put him in the bullpen was like, okay, listen, we don't want you going out there having a bad performance and starting and then stewing on that, because maybe he is that mentally, fragile. And I don't try not to say that in a mean way. I'm not trying to really be mean. I really am not. But maybe he is, fractured mentally. And they're like, we can't let him have these bad outings, stew on it for 4 days, because that's going to be worse. Let's get him in the bullpen and let's failure right back out there again. Failure right back.
Do you know
maybe
what
that
they need,
was their
Pat?
thought.
They need the Brian Shaw therapy. Brian Shaw pitches every single game. So, you have to have a short memory. It's like you forget about what you did the previous game and you're right back out there. Put him on the Brian Shaw program. Like you're pitching Kopech this next series against Washington, you're pitching every single game. Okay. We're just going to keep throwing you out there. You almost have to pitch your way out of it, because, he did this on Friday, he had this meltdown, and we didn't see him for 2 games. So you're still sitting there, stewing, maybe getting your work in the bullpen, but that's not helping anything. You need to get out there in action and just correct it on the fly. I don't know. This has been I was high on Kopech, as I think a lot of people were coming into the season. We mentioned this. This was, I thought, a guy that could be really critical to the White Sox season, and his failures, I think, go hand in hand. There's a lot of players. Don't get me wrong. Holy cow. You look at this lineup and there are so many guys that it's like, well, if you just would have done this or this. But Kopech, I just feels like one of those guys that, he could have been an X factor, and it just went the opposite direction.
Is there any benefit right now? Is there anything that he can do between now and the end of the year that would be beneficial to him? Is there any benefit to even putting him out there and having him try and work through stuff now? Right. I mean, I know he's a professional athlete and he's getting paid to do a job, but boy, at this point, I don't know what he seems so lost in a lot of ways, mentally, physically, that it's like, what is the use of putting this guy out there at this point?
Let me end it, or try to put try to wrap this thing up with going back to, like, a personal, I guess, metaphor or analogy with golf, a sport that, I've tried to figure out for a very long time, and I've had some great moments, but in the same round, it's like you have some miserable moments, but it's like you want to kind of end your round on that high note, or you want to figure something out. It's like, okay, well, I was able to start reading greens a little bit better, and my putting came around, or, I wasn't pulling the drive, or I got my distance a lot better, with my short irons or something. And you're saying, well, I'm glad I just didn't walk off the golf course. There's something that I was able to achieve that I can take into my next round. And I think that's why he keeps going out there, why you'd keep putting him out there. That's why I wanted him to keep starting, is like, well, what did you do in that previous start? Go to the video, go into the lab, go into the cat's lab, and figure this out somehow. Something small, whatever it is, with one of your pitches. Almost go down back to the spring training route of, like, I'm working on one thing. Okay, it's September 17th right now. In my next outing, I'm just working on my off-speed stuff, or spotting my
So it's like
fastball.
going back to spring training when guys would just go out there
Absolutely, at
like,
this point.
today
And
I'm
then,
working on my breaking stuff.
why not? And
Yeah.
then you say, okay, well, that was at least productive. Like, I
Yeah.
felt good coming out of that. I think that's where it's at right now.
Do you think, I just curious if they have that kind of mentality, because, Pedro Grifol, I think still wants to win a ball game. He's preparing to win a ball game. I don't know if there's a lot of, well, we're going to work on this right now. You know what I mean? I don't get that feel like, let's attack this next 2 weeks like it is spring training.
They weren't trying to win a ball game on Sunday. That lineup was brutal. You could expected the outcome. After Sunday, Sox are 4-12 against the AL Central, the same division that both Jerry Reinsdorf and Chris Getz talked about recently, being lucky that they're in this division, so we can feast on the AL Central. I'm putting words in their mouths, but I think that's what they meant, is because we're in this division, we can bounce back. Well, this division ate your lunch this year. 4-12 the last 16 games, 23-29 overall in the AL Central in this season. So if you can't even beat your own division, and mind you, the AL Central, you got zero chance, and that showed here for the Sox. You have a very real chance of losing 100 games.
No doubt about it. And when I heard 23-29, which I saw it earlier today, I think our buddy Steve tweeted that out. I was shocked. I was shocked that it was that good, to be honest with you. 6 games under against the Central, 23-29. That's a lot better than I thought it would have been. If you would have sat me down and had me guess, I would have never thought they would have had 23 wins against the AL Central. I don't know that I can recall too many games they beat Kansas City. I guess the only team they performed pretty well against was Cleveland, surprisingly enough. I just don't know how I would have come up with 23 wins against this division, this hapless division that we're lucky to be in.
Yeah, I could see where you're coming from with that. I think it's the big picture of, well, if that's your record against the AL Central, and that is also your division, these teams aren't going away. I feel like these teams are going to be getting better as well. Detroit's got some players. They really do. Minnesota, man, they're always there, right?
Yeah.
They
might take a year or two off where they're not, contending for the division, but, seemingly they will every other year. And I don't know that any other, maybe they don't mention it, but like we do so arrogantly, but I don't know that other teams are like, oh, thank goodness we're in this division. We can kind of relax. We should be fine. I think other teams really want to win this division. At least 2 other teams do.
That's a good point. I don't follow enough. I used to have some really good conversations with, some of the hosts of Locked On, Guardians and Twins, and the host of Locked On Twins. They said it at the beginning of the year. They were very confident on the Twins because of how the Twins spent their money, how they allocated their money in the offseason by the bench players, the utility guys, filling out that roster and making use of it. Like really like, hey, no wasted spot here. How they spent their money, how they went after talent. They knew they were going to have to rely on utility players. Everybody gets hurt. You're going to have to go to your bench. You're going to have to rely on your bench in critical situations. And that's what Minnesota did. And, Minnesota, the only team above 500 in all of the division. And who knows how far they're going to get. They don't have a very good track record in the postseason, but we're just talking about the division here, the AL Central. And yeah, I don't know if those other teams look at it like, oh, this is, this, thank God, we're going to be able to make hay easily. Or I don't want to even think about that. It's about putting together an outstanding team, a solid team, in every facet, whether we're in the AL East or the NL West. I'm not comparing it to who we are in the division. I'm trying to put the best team possible together with our resources and what we have throughout the offseason and beyond. And I think that's where, Getz is, trying to drum up some, we're going to do this and we're going to focus on speed and we're going to, this is how we want to tailor our game. But there's just so many holes. They're going to have to be reimagining right field all over again, which is not new. Oscar Colas sent down earlier in the week. Once again, we need him to completely clean up his whole game, Grifol said. I'm talking about base running, defensively. These are things.
You go down there and clean it all up.
Everything needs to change. These are things I've spoken about all year. They are not new. We thought it was just a good time for him to go down there and just attack those things on the minor league side, Grifol said. I've talked about this over and over again, and Chris and I are aligned on this vision. We want to play a fundamental style of baseball. We want to eliminate mistakes, and details are extremely important to us. Last line is like in Seinfeld, where that episode where Costanza was getting set up on that date, and he's scratching the bald spot in his head. And thick hair is very important to me. Thick, lustrous hair. Yeah, it's very. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said.
You want to get your hair in the hand out of it?
So Grifol's saying we want to eliminate mistakes and details are extremely important to us. It's like, really? When? Since when? Because it's been a season where it doesn't sound like you have been paying attention to all of those things. And why he keeps hammering away at Oscar Colas or Corey Lee or these young guys and will not, get in the face of veterans is beyond me. I think that's a whole nother growing edge to Grifol and his future as a major league manager. But Oscar Colas, he does not have a friend in Pedro Grifol, and I don't know what the future is like, but they have really, I hate to say it, but emotionally, if this guy was a fragile guy emotionally, and I don't know, he might be broke, man, after this year. Here he is working his tail off, we think. And, hey, the organization gave him the green light. It's like, you're going to be our starting right fielder. Okay. He didn't hurt himself at all in spring training. And, of course, we've talked about this a million times. The organization didn't go out and get a proven right fielder. It's like they talked up Oscar Colas and what he's, ready to become. Maybe he doesn't have a lot more to learn at the AAA level, but I heard differing reports if you read some of the great athletic articles by Fegan in the offseason. But hey, he won the job. That was his job. And then it's like taken away from him when he starts to scuffle and everyone else is scuffling on the team. And he's the one that's being put under a spotlight. Well, that was the guy you chose to be your starting right fielder. And he had zero major league experience and just a cup of coffee in the minors. So what did you expect? And then you bring him back up and he's, at a 10 and you want him at an 8 and all these boombox references. And I get it, man. He's not hitting cutoff guys. His plate approach is pathetic, but everybody else is on the south side. But he's the guy, again, it's like, no, this guy's got to clean up everything. Sorry, you're the one that's going to get sent down. And okay, yeah, he does have a lot of learning to do, but okay, so what are you going to do in right field now?
Well, you had mentioned something that I thought was interesting when you said he won the job out of spring training. I don't recall who he was competing with.
Gavin
who else? I mean, okay.
Lurie Garcia, perhaps?
Yeah, perhaps. But it really wasn't a competition. I mean, We all knew he was getting this job from the word go. It seemed like, and again, I think he had a good enough spring to deserve to be brought up with the big club, and I get that. But I'm 100% with you to make him the scapegoat for the entire team early on in the season when people weren't hitting cutoff guys, when people weren't playing good defense, when base running was atrocious, when the plate approach was terrible with this new plan and hitting team that they had put in place. I mean, it's laughable to put it all on him. Now, does that absolve him from his performance? No. I mean, at some point, you've got to be also to rise above. But you've got guys, veterans on this team that have just decided they aren't. I have no interest in listening to what you have to say, Mr. Coach or Mr. Manager. I'm going to go about it my way.
It's just manager.
We have no interest in taking walks in this team. That's not something we do. We swing violently at pitches out of the zone and take a lot of strikeouts, and we don't hit a lot of home runs. That's just what we do. Hey, I have no interest in playing defense. I'm just going to let everybody in the front office and everybody in the dugout. So why should this rookie, who is he going to turn to and go, boy, I want to be like that guy? Right, Nick? I mean, you and I have been, school together, and we've both had different career paths in life. And early on, and my brother has talked about this, in fact, and him starting a new career as a real estate agent. He'd worked in sales for a long time, and he thought, what I want to do? I want to be around. I want to liken myself to somebody that's been doing this a long time and follow what they do, right? And really watch them and follow, their paths. Like, okay, they're really good at that. They do this really well. What can I do to be like this person so I can have similar success? Who could he turn to on this team and go, I want to be like that guy because they're successful? Maybe it's the guy in center field. But I also don't know that Luis Robert Jr. always does things the right way, right? He's just got so much God-given talent that it rises above anything else that he has to do. I mean, he's not a leader. We know that. There are no leaders on this team. So who is he going to go and be under somebody's wing and learn from? There is no one on this team.
Yeah.
And your manager isn't a leader. Your coaching staff, they aren't leaders. There's nobody on this team that you can turn to and go, I am struggling. How can I get out of this? Because everybody is playing for themselves. No one is playing for each other. So there's no one that's going to offer up, seemingly, again, I'm just saying seemingly, is going to offer up any kind of advice to a young player and say, hey, man, you got to do it this way, and this is how we do it here. Just not.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. It was a big worry of mine. I believe I focused some time on Locked On about it in the off season with the departure of Jose Abreu, and someone brought it up in social media, and I really apologize. I forgot that name. I can't take credit of it, but it's a theme you got to think of, is the loss of Jose Abreu, just in terms of a leadership, a mentor, a veteran that has proven success individually. Of course, the loss of that hurt a guy like Oscar Colas, or maybe other individuals, without whatever vibe that Jose Abreu had, whatever command he had. He was looked to by the way he played and went out there. Has that hurt this team, this White Sox team?
Well, I guess you could say yes, because they were a 500 team last year, and this year they're going to lose 100 games. I don't know that I look at Jose Abreu as being this ultimate leader. I just don't, because there were still a lot of the same ailments that were happening last year, right? Poor defense, terrible base running, terrible plate awareness, not drawing enough walks. Okay. Those things remain from last year to this year. I guess you could say maybe he could have, trying to get some guys in line a little bit better this year. But I don't think you can have a leader on a ball club that doesn't meet the media, that doesn't do interviews because, he doesn't speak English very well. I don't think that's I don't think that's a real leader. Maybe he's just a really solid guy in the locker room. I agree with that. But leader, I don't know. I mean, what did it do for us?
I think by example, Pat. I mean, I get the whole maybe lack of interviews and everything, and I understand that. But what he did, man, out on the field, you cannot you cannot deny. Like what you went in your work ethic, and you said, just follow me. This is how I'm going to do it. I can't maybe explain how I'm doing it, but this is how. And I feel like other players have said it, like Eloy Jimenez, and whether it's really sunken in or they've been able to replicate is a whole nother situation. But they have said about Abreu over the years is, I mean, just the work he puts in, like that is what I am holding my, is the standard.
But okay, so Jose was around this team for a long time, and there was guys in this ball club that were around Jose for a long time. How come none of that translated? Jose Abreu wasn't going to be a player on this team forever. There was talk about maybe him retiring after last year. There was a real thing, that maybe that was it for him after last year. And we knew it was pretty much it for him in a White Sox uniform, because they weren't going to re-sign him at the age with the declining skill sets that he had, the lack of power that kind of started to rear its ugly head for him. So if he just had retired, why didn't any of what he instilled in guys then remain? Why did it just go by the wayside?
Well, because there isn't a White Sox way, and he was able to hold on to it for as long as he held on to it and controlled what he can control while he was there. But there's not a machine, once he's removed, there is no other way, and if Pedro Grifol and his coaching staff can't implement anything, can't get anything to grow roots, well, yeah, then it's going to all fall apart. I'm not, again, I just throw that out there as like, well, that's interesting. You brought up the Oscar Colas, and maybe he doesn't have anybody to kind of put an arm around him and say, look, Rook, I've been there. Like, just, hey, you and I in the cage tomorrow morning, we're going to figure this out. Or you are next to me in the dugout or on the plane or whatever. I'm going to be at your side. This is a mental thing right now. You got to get through this mental. They're going to try to break you. People that you think are closest to you in this organization are going to try to break you. You got to get through this. You're too good to just, let this slip away here. And yeah, maybe there wasn't anybody like that this year. I don't know. There's a lot of issues that Colas has to clean up, but there's a lot of stuff that this team has to clean up. Thankfully, our guy James Fegan, he's back writing in the Chicago Sun-Times, and he's writing, a little bit more regularly. And I love his stuff. So if you didn't realize, this, he's on the Sun-Times, and this was something he wrote up a couple days ago. Please check it out. I mean, it's essentially like, how can this team possibly turn this thing around in one off season? And Fegan wrote, Sox fundamentally limited on offense by poor plate discipline and an inability to drive the ball in the air. The Sox are last in baseball in walks again, and first in ground ball rate. Grifol's done talking about the things, though, he keeps talking about. But Grifol continued. My advice to everybody who's going to come to our camp next year in 2024, if they truly want to play in the big leagues, they've got to come in with that mindset because they're going to have an opportunity to. They really are. If you're going to go to spring training with us in 2024 and you really have goals to make a big league team, you're probably not going to have a better opportunity than with the 2024 White Sox. So, if that doesn't scream,
is that verbatim? Did you read
this?
Did
you
is
verbatim. This
it
is
sounds
what
like
he
it's
is
a
saying.
one ad.
Exactly. I am loving this. This is going to be an open tryouts. This is like Major League. Didn't Cleveland do this in Major League where they just were all hands on deck? Man, we could have a real cast of characters in Glendale in 2024. So, if you got something left in the tank, you just finished college, or maybe you've been in some kind of, over 30 league fast pitch, and you're like, you know what? This screams, a Disney script in a future movie. If this is a hit, if he finds somebody from this open tryout that is ready to just give it their all, this could be Sox could be back in the national spotlight.
How's the arm, Nick? I mean,
Well, after
should I pop
reading
die
that,
and
yeah, I've got the big rubber bands out, and I'm going to be doing some long toss this
I'll come over,
winter.
sit
And
on the bucket. You could fire some heaters into me.
I'm telling you, the rookie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the movie. These types of things. Love the stuff from Fegan. Great article, and these quotes from Grifol. It's just what kind of that's where I'm like, you're watching the product on the field, but you're also reading. Like, what are we expecting here? I can't figure it out what this offseason is going to be like and what we should even expect in the spring. But the Sox want to get fast. Apparently, though, I did read this in 2024. They want to have speed, and they have it, but I feel like it's not being able to be unleashed right now. Robert's having a rough month. Anderson, Moncada, others have been, like almost shut down. Like, do not try hard right now. Do not be running. And that's the problem. It's like you got the speed, but you don't want to risk it to get guys injured because of the history, I guess, with this organization. So Sox are unlikely to have a player reach 20 stolen bases this season and are on pace to finish in the bottom 10 in MLB in stolen bases as a team for the fourth straight year. Meanwhile, they have allowed the most stolen bases in baseball on defense. So it's another little fun wrinkle when you look into the offseason.
So they don't have any speed. They don't have any power. They don't hit the ball in the air. They have no pitching.
Yeah.
Sounds like a competitive year to me next year, my friend.
Yeah.
So how do you make it? How do you get these guys to be faster next year? Do you put them all on a speed program of some sort? Is everybody walking around with parachutes behind their back to create drag, and then all of a sudden you take the parachutes off and everybody's ultimately faster?
Well, see, that's the issue is things were recognized in the early part of the offseason last year. Plate discipline. Boy, did I read about that and how we're going to practice that. And then there's a way to do that. And we're going to be tracking pitches, and, we're going to be learning, just about ourselves as hitters and where our, weak spots are, or where our temptation spots are. They have all those heat maps and everything. And we're going to, reimagine this with a new hitting instructor and a whole new program. Well, none of that worked. So yeah, sure, you can maybe put some stuff in or say you're going to be addressing it, but we tried that already. So are you really going to try this offseason? Are you really, really going to try this?
We're really going to try with all the people coming in from the want ads.
Well, and maybe that's what you need in a weird way, and not necessarily, a complete open tryout, but maybe you need a group of guys that are just really hungry for a spot. They are hungry, like nothing is given to them. They are not a blue chip. They are not somebody that is just born with an immense amount of talent and has been told you're amazing all of their life at every single level. Maybe you need some guys that are just, Mark Burley type of guys that are not superstars, but man, they play the game right. They're gritty. They've got some, some moxie to them. I don't know how far you're going to go with that. I think you need some other things as well, but that mentality, Grifol's all about this culture nonsense and trying to find out what type of team they are. And maybe that's what it is. Just a scrappy, type of, ragtag bunch that you do find just by having an open tryout.
I can't wait for us to go to open tryouts. That's going to be awesome. If nothing else, we can go to Glendale together and have play some golf. That'll be fun. And take one day, we'll go try out for the team. My son
the first day we get there to Glendale, we both try out.
Yeah.
We know we probably don't have a great chance of getting a call back. And it's like, all right, we'll golf and work on our golf game for the next 2-3 days,
As you know, I'm a first base coach for Shanahan baseball for my son's team. He's 7, having a great fall ball season right now. It's fantastic, and twice now. And I don't know if I've said this on the air or talked to you about it. Twice he's asked me, how old is our first base coach for the Sox? And I said, Daryl Boston. I said, he's got to be in his 60s, bud. He's like, Dad, you're a better first base coach than him. You should be the
Oh
first base
no.
coach. So
Oh
if nothing
boy.
else, Nick, I think that
Open
I have
tryouts
what
for
it
first base
takes.
coach?
I think
Is that what we're
so.
saying?
I
Oh
think
boy.
so.
I was at the game on Wednesday and I wasn't there terribly long because I was with my 16-month-old, and we get there early when we're going to go. Get there early, walk around.
No, he
and
wants a
then,
hot dog with onions.
We saw, got a nice close. We had some good seats, got a nice close shot of the Sad father working on it, and my son like loving all the tractor, all the stuff that they're using to prep the field. And so we were there for like the first couple innings, and I got to see kind of what Daryl Boston does. What do you do? And what he does is like, he's the one that's greeting players coming off the field, hyping them up, all these different handshakes and slapping and throwing baseballs to people and to the fans. I mean, he's like this big mascot. So I think that's what he does. He creates some sort of synergy or magic through that. And then and that is something that you just can't replace or replicate, apparently.
You think Southpaw's threatened on a nightly basis by Daryl Boston?
You think if
Daryl
Boston leaves,
I'm talking about Southpaw, the mascot Southpaw.
I sure hope not. I'm curious to see how long Boston's going to be there at first base. Everything absolutely has to be reimagined. I've got the quote of the week for you, Pat, if you're ready here. Hopefully in the future, sponsored by Super Rope. This is all about Griffol's kind of delusion, and maybe this was right before someone talked to him and said, "Hey, pal, dial it down a little bit. You're talking a little too much about how competitive we're going to be in 2024." But this was him earlier here in the week. Griffol says the talent is in place. The talent is in place here. It is good, but we have to get better offensively on the pitching end, defensive end, base running. I mean, all aspects of the game. And a lot of that falls on me. We have to coach better. We have to have better plans. We have to hold each other accountable more. I mean, everything. Everybody has to get better here. There's nothing where we can actually look to this year and say, okay, that was good enough. Nothing was good enough this year. So that's an actual quote. So he went from saying the talent is in place, it's good, and then completely undressing and going backwards on absolutely everything, to the ending saying nothing was good enough this year. So there's your quote of the week.
The talent can't be good then, Nick. It just can't be. If you're just flat out not interested or able to play defense, and if you're flat out, really base running stupid, then you're not that talented.
And that's Go ahead.
No, I think we've deceived ourselves for a long time.
Yes.
To thinking this team was full of talent, and
absolutely.
And it was a flash in the pan.
We wanted to believe it.
Yeah.
We wanted to believe that these guys were hyped up, Moncada, and you could go so many, and just like, they're talented though. We're being told they're talented. People who do this for a living, who evaluate players, are telling us, watch out for these players. Okay, I'm into it. I'm buying into it. We don't have a lot to grab on here in 2017, 2018. I'm believing all of this. The people that we're drafting, people are telling us these are great players. Watch out for these players. Maybe they're just not there. Like, the talent is not there. Maybe it was at some point. Maybe the projections were accurate. It's like, okay, well, what I'm seeing now, I can kind of make a prediction, 5 years down the line or what have you. But if you're going to say the talent's there and then go on and say everything is wrong and we've done nothing good, well, then I'm sorry, stop referring to this core as like a great foundation. And I can't wait to continue to build on this. It's not. Can we finally say, yeah, there's some guys that have had some moments, and sure, they could theoretically, put something together. I mean, Robert, well, look what we're seeing here. But can everybody do that, this core, all together at once, for a stretch? I don't see that. Nothing has shown me that can happen right now.
Yeah, the talent is not what we thought. The attitude of the players isn't what we thought it was or thought it could be. Um, this team really peaked with Ricky Renteria, even though it was when TLR was here that they won the division by 10 games and won 90. I think it was 93 ball games. But I think really. Ricky got the best out of this team. He got the best out of the talent that was here. The pitchers that were here were pitching well under his leadership, right? Not that he was the pitching coach, but whatever it was, I can't believe I'm saying it, but it was so much better with Ricky.
Was that a situation of we're playing kind of with house money in a weird way? No one's expecting anything from us. There's no expectations, and guys haven't gotten paid yet. Guys were still trying to prove that they could be at the big league level, and he just was able to orchestrate that. He was able to manage that of, look, let's get these guys playing well, and they're hungry, and there's a chip on their shoulders, and that was a perfect storm in that way. And then maybe egos got in the way or expectations then took over. And, players started believing in their own hype and what people are saying to them. And it got inflated, and it's just all window dressing.
There is, I don't know if there's one, but there's some type of cancer in this clubhouse or on this team or somewhere, Nick, that has infected everybody from the top down on this team. And I don't know what you have to do to rectify it. I don't know what can be done. I don't know if it's just an off season of getting away and getting rejuvenated and maybe the things that you as a player had tried to implement and put in place, the new way of doing things, just now maybe you can relook at that and go, maybe I should try it this way, or maybe I should listen to my manager, or maybe we should work a little harder. I can't just rely on my God-given talent to excel me forward. I actually have to put forth an effort. But I don't know. Can guys change at this point? It's going to be an interesting offseason, Nick. I know we've got 2 weeks left. And we're going to just kind of, you and I are going to do the best we can with what we got.
We'll try to end on a positive note here. And Howard reminded us in the beginning in the comments, and I believe the Sox blasted it out on social media as we record here on Sunday, September 17th. It's the 40th anniversary. Is that right? Of the winning ugly team, the 1983 team capturing the division, the AL West. We were young tykes, you and I, definitely heard the stories from family members and friends, and the good folks at Last Comiskey. They did an outstanding job in their documentary of bringing that moment to life, and got some great sound bites and stories from all different walks of Sox fandom life, and read about it, of course, and such a fun team. And you've gotten to know a lot of those players because they've stayed in the organization somehow, some way. And that really, that 83 team, that winning ugly team, I mean, we kind of look at it, I guess, as Sox fans, is like, how Bears fans look at the 85 team, right? It was just this collection of players, this had this edge, this image, and in a town that did not see a lot of success for a while. You had something, there in 83. And so, kind of cool. Something that, again, there hasn't been a lot of banners raised, on the South side, but that, and then falling to the Baltimore Orioles and what kind of happened after that season and beyond. It's just, we had that moment though. And it's obviously the 83s are worn on Sundays and have been for a while to remember that team. So, kind of cool to just take that trip down memory lane, I guess, on a losing White Sox Sunday.
Well, that's what we have, Nick. Looking back 40 freaking years
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you and I were 2 to
Yep.
go, oh, that was something cool.
Yeah.
Would be nice if we had more of those moments. And who knows, maybe
Yeah.
our sons will have more moments to enjoy as they grow up. But that's what we have,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah, as all these other teams around Major League Baseball, whether it be the Dodgers or the Orioles, are punching their tickets into this year's playoff bracket, the White Sox are tipping a cap to 40 years ago when things were golden back in 1983. Well, always a pleasure, Pat, talking White Sox with you, my friend.
Yeah. Let's try again next time, and maybe we'll have something better to discuss.
Another
Somehow
maybe
we've
a
still filled up 55 minutes of
Yeah,
White
oh yeah.
Sox talk, though.
That's
God
never going
bless
to be a
us.
problem. Never going to be a problem. However, I'm always curious what decade, what old anniversary can we be commemorating next episode? Folks, really appreciate, and I say this all the time, but I truly mean it. You giving us your time, coming in the comments, watching on YouTube, passing this podcast along and consuming it audio form where you can find it wherever you find your podcasts. We are on Twitter X at Good Guys TV. We've got a Facebook fan page. And again, join us on Sunday nights. Go back, watch episodes, subscribe to the YouTube page channel. We do appreciate that. And the audio always available everywhere. For Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.